26-year-old Kimberly sits rigid in the courtroom gallery, her honey blonde waves freshly done, her blue-green eyes fixed straight ahead with composed dread. Her hairdresser of 12 years, Angela, a woman in her late 50s with kind but unflinching eyes, walks toward the witness stand. Her bright silk scarf a defiant splash of color. Angela reaches into her canvas bag and slowly pulls out a small battered spiral notebook. The cover worn soft from years of handling, and the courtroom turns silent.
What is that? She's been my hairdresser for 12 years. I've never once seen that notebook.
The prosecutor steps forward, voice even. Miss Angela, can you identify the object you are holding?
It's my record. 12 years of observations.
Kimberly's breath catches, her hands lock together so tightly in her lap that her knuckles go white.
Observations? Of what? She never said anything. Not once in all those years.
The courtroom freezes. Even the defense attorney stops shuffling papers. Every face turns toward the small notebook.
May I read from it?
But the real story started far from this courtroom, 12 years earlier, in a small salon in suburban Cleveland, when Kimberly was only 14.
Just a trim. Not too much off the length, and keep it simple. No nonsense.
Just don't argue. Don't make it worse.
Angela's practiced hands guided Kimberly's head back into the shampoo bowl. Her fingertips grazed a fresh bruise just below the hairline, yellowed at the edges, recent.
Don't react. She's watching.
Everything all right over there?
Just checking the water temperature, ma'am. All good.
It's too short in the back. I specifically said only an inch.
It was exactly what I asked for. But she'll never admit that.
After they'd gone, Angela pulled her appointment book close. In the margin, beside the 3:30 slot, she wrote, age 14, bruise on neck, left side, mother critical. A month later, Kimberly returned, this time with a purple shadow beneath her left eye.
Gym class accident. A basketball hit my face. That's all.
Angela didn't argue. She'd seen enough gym class bruises to know the difference. 6 weeks later, while working a strengthener through Kimberly's hair, Angela's fingers found a fresh wound, still tender, still weeping.
Don't flinch. Don't let her see.
That night, Angela stayed after closing. Her appointment book margins were filling up dangerously fast.
If I push too hard, she'll stop coming. Then I'll lose any way to see.
2 years passed. Kimberly's hair grew brittle from stress. New excuses covered new marks. On a January morning in 2016, Angela bought a small spiral notebook just for Kimberly. She transferred all the margin notes, then added the latest entry: healing wound, left temple. Client claims cat scratch. In October 2016, Kimberly walked into the salon with her head down, a beanie tugged low over her ears, even though the weather was mild.
Sweetheart, let me help you take the hat off. What's going on with your hair?
I got caught in a door. The hinge just ripped a piece out. It's stupid.
That's not a door hinge. That's a handful of hair ripped out by the roots.
Angela kept her voice steady, her movements careful as she sectioned the damaged area and applied a cool, calming serum.
Don't cry. Just sit still. It'll grow back. It always does.
After the appointment, Angela sat alone in the back room, her small spiral notebook open on the counter. She wrote, the 14th of October, 2016. Hair forcibly pulled from crown. 2-centimeter bald patch with root tears. Client claims door hinge. She set the pen down, closed the notebook, and pressed her fingers against the worn cover.
One day I'll be glad I wrote this down, but today is not that day.
Holiday visits became a predictable cycle. A tense return to her mother's house. Then a quiet trip to the salon for repairs. Angela noted the injury without comment. December 23rd, split lip. Ice skating fall claimed. 6 months later, the damage had escalated. A deep laceration at her hairline that would leave a permanent scar.
Mom tripped me on the stairs. It was just an accident. She felt awful.
A fall on stairs doesn't slice skin in a straight line. That's a deliberate cut.
Angela recorded. April 8th, 2017. 4-centimeter laceration, left hairline. Client reports mother tripped. Wound profile inconsistent with accident.
73 entries. And still, she protects the woman who hurts her.
They'll all believe her anyway. It's always just an accident.
The notebook grew thicker, but Kimberly's denials remained absolute. Each lie was a suture that kept the wound from closing. It would take 2 more years, and an incident that couldn't be explained away, before Kimberly finally reached for the phone. In September 2019, after a weekend locked in her mother's house with no phone and a fractured wrist, Kimberly smashed a window and ran. She drove straight to the police station, her good hand gripping the wheel, and told the desk sergeant everything. Deborah was arrested that night, but released on bail within days. Her attorney calling it a family disagreement blown out of proportion. For 18 months, the case crawled through motions and delays, while Kimberly met with her attorney in a small windowless office. Then, 2 weeks before trial, her attorney slid a sheet of paper across the table. "We have a new witness. Your hairdresser, Angela. She says she has records."
Angela, records? I never told her anything about the abuse. What could she possibly have to say?
The attorney offered no details. Just that Angela had been quietly documenting something for over a decade.
What could she have seen? The bruises? The scars? She never said a word.
That night, she lay awake in her apartment, the ceiling light off, staring into the dark, trying to piece together years of silence. The trial started 3 days later. Kimberly walked into the courtroom, not knowing that the most important witness in the room had been watching her back for 12 years. On the first day of testimony, Kimberly took the stand, her hands trembling as she swore to tell the truth. The prosecutor guided her through each incident. Kimberly's voice was thin but steady as she described the locked room. Then came the cross-examination. Deborah's attorney leaned forward, his voice dripping with false sympathy. He asked the question she had dreaded. "Isn't it true you've always resented your mother for being strict?"
Don't cry. If you cry, they'll think you are lying.
She tried to answer, but the words caught in her throat. A muffled sob escaped before she could stop it. In the gallery, 2 jurors exchanged glances. The seed of doubt had been planted. Deborah sat perfectly still, a faint smile playing at the corners of her mouth. When the judge called a recess, Kimberly stepped down on unsteady legs. She had told the truth. It might not be enough.
Nobody believes me. It's her word against mine, and she sounds so calm.
Angela walked to the courthouse alone on the second day, her canvas bag heavy with the worn notebook inside. Inside, Deborah's sister took the stand, describing their childhood discipline as strict but fair. She testified that their parents spanked them and they turned out fine, that some kids simply couldn't handle discipline. The implication was clear. Kimberly was too sensitive, twisting normal parenting into abuse.
They're turning it all around, making me sound like the broken one.
When the sister stepped down, Kimberly caught a flash of color in the back, a silk scarf she knew. Angela sat rigid, bag in lap, and when their eyes met, she gave a single firm nod.
She came. She actually came. After all these years. Why does that feel like hope?
That evening, her attorney called. "Your hairdresser testifies tomorrow. She says she kept records."
But I never told her anything. What can she possibly have to say?
On the 3rd day of trial, the bailiff called Angela's name, and the courtroom fell silent as she rose from the back row. She walked to the stand with her canvas bag, her scarf a flash of defiance in the gray light. After she swore her oath, the prosecutor stepped forward and motioned toward the worn notebook in her hands. The prosecutor asked what the notebook contained. Angela's voice came out calm and sure.
I've been Kimberly's hairdresser for 12 years. I kept a record of every injury I saw.
12 years. She saw me. All this time, she saw me.
Kimberly's hand flew to her mouth. Tears she had held back for years finally spilled. The prosecutor asked her to read an entry. Angela turned back the cover slowly.
September 2014. Bruise on neck, below left ear. First time I noticed.
The jury, which had been leaning back with crossed arms, now sat forward. The notebook was a map of pain they couldn't ignore.
October 2016. 2-centimeter bald patch at the crown. Hair forcibly pulled from roots. Client said hinge.
She measured it. She knew it wasn't a door. She knew.
The 8th of April 2017. Deep laceration, left hairline, claimed fall. But stairs don't cut skin in a straight line.
Kimberly wept openly, not from pain, but from the overwhelming relief of being finally witnessed. Deborah's face drained as she gripped the table.
September 2019. Multiple contusions on shoulders, knuckles raw, wrist fractured. She had been locked in.
The judge called for a brief recess. The jury filed out, their eyes lingering on the worn notebook. When court resumed, the damage was irreversible. The notebook had shifted the trial from he said, she said to documented fact.
She saw everything. Every bruise, every cut, every lie, and she never said a word.
Deborah's attorney scribbled frantic notes. For the first time, the defendant looked truly afraid. The prosecution had turned a family secret into a public record. And the jury would not forget. The defense attorney rose slowly and approached the witness stand, his voice dripping with condescension.
You are not a doctor, Miss Angela. How do you know these were inflicted and not accidental? I know the difference between a shaving nick and a cigarette burn, sir. I've seen enough, both on my own body.
The attorney's face flickered. He tried a different tack, his voice now sharp.
If you were so concerned, why didn't you call the police? Or at least confront her mother? Because she needed someone to be there when she was ready. Not someone who would force the door before she could stand behind it.
Kimberly closed her eyes. Angela had been waiting, quietly, faithfully, for her to choose herself.
I am a survivor myself. I knew pushing too soon could drive her away forever, so I documented and I waited for 12 years.
The defense attorney opened his mouth, then closed it. There was no cross-examining that kind of patience. When Angela stepped down, the notebook remained on the evidence table. 73 reasons no one could ignore. Closing arguments ended at noon. The jury filed out, and the courtroom emptied into the hallway, filled with the murmur of waiting. Hours passed. Kimberly sat on a wooden bench, her hands clasped, her mind replaying every entry Angela had read. When the clerk finally called them back, the air in the room felt thick and still. The foreperson unfolded a sheet of paper. His voice carried no emotion. We find the defendant guilty on 3 counts of assault in the 3rd degree, and 1 count of unlawful imprisonment. Kimberly exhaled a sob she hadn't known she'd been holding. Her body folded forward, hands pressed to her mouth. Deborah's face twisted. She turned to her lawyer, her voice a venomous hiss. The judge brought down the gavel sharply. Miss Deborah, control yourself, or you'll be removed. Sentencing was scheduled for the following month. Deborah was led away in handcuffs, her glare fixed on nothing.
It's over. But why don't I feel free?
The sentencing hearing was held a month later, in a courtroom that felt hollow. The judge read Deborah's sentence without emotion. 4 years in state prison, with mandated treatment and a permanent no-contact order. Deborah stood rigid at the defendant's table, staring at the wall, as if the words meant nothing to her.
No remorse, not even a glance in my direction.
When the gavel fell, the sound was final. Kimberly felt something shift, not relief, but the first loose thread of it. The courtroom emptied. Kimberly waited until the crowd thinned, then walked out into the gray afternoon. On the courthouse steps, Angela waited, her scarf a bright splash of color against the granite.
I kept this for you until you were ready. Now it belongs to you.
Kimberly took the notebook, her fingers trembling. She pulled Angela into a tight embrace, whispering,
Thank you.
Kimberly began weekly therapy in a small office with pale green walls. The first sessions were mostly silence.
I want to help others who are still in the dark. the ones who don't have an Angela yet. Angela's notebook saved me. What if every stylist had one?
She started volunteering at a nonprofit in Cleveland, learning how to do warm handoffs for survivors. A few weeks later, she met Angela at a coffee shop, the notebook sitting on the table between them as she laid out her vision.
I've been waiting for someone to ask. Let's do it.
They drafted a curriculum right there. Signs of scalp trauma, patterns of bruises, how to document and offer resources without pushing.
We'll call it the chair. The safest seat in a salon.
Angela nodded, her eyes glistening. They had turned a silent record into the seed of a movement.
This is how I turn pain into purpose.
Over the next 3 years, the chair was adopted by 14 salons across the Cleveland area, each stylist trained to see the signs. In a bright salon one morning, Kimberly stood before a class of 12 stylists. Angela at her side, the worn sample notebook in her hand.
Look at the scalp, not just the hair. Notice patterns. A bruise here, a scar there, they tell a story.
A young stylist raised her hand, her voice nervous. I had a client with a black eye last week. I didn't know what to say.
You don't have to be a therapist. Just say, "Are you okay? Is there anything you want to talk about?" The chair is a safe space.
Kimberly coached them through a role play, practicing how to ask without prying, how to offer resources without pushing. After the session, that same stylist quietly took the nonprofit's warm line number from the resource flyer. Kimberly and Angela stood by the window, watching the stylist walk to her car, phone already pressed to her ear. They didn't need to speak. The look they shared held 12 years of silence and one moment of pure, undeniable triumph.
Angela's notebook started this. Now it's spreading.
4 months into Deborah's sentence, a thick envelope from the state prison landed in Kimberly's mailbox.
31 pages. She's never written me a single letter before.
She sat at her kitchen table, staring at the envelope for a full minute before sliding her finger under the seal. The first line read, "I am not asking for forgiveness." Then, pages of cramped handwriting. "I don't expect you to understand. You were always so sensitive. I did my best. Maybe I was too hard, but you were never easy."
Not a single apology. Just blame dressed up as regret.
She didn't finish reading. She folded the pages back into the envelope and walked to her bedroom closet.
I don't have to carry this anymore.
She placed the letter in the box beside Angela's notebook and closed the lid, the mental lock clicking shut more securely than any lock she'd ever known. Later that evening, Kimberly sat by her apartment window, Angela's worn notebook resting on her lap, the city lights flickering below.
Healing isn't a straight line. Some days, it still feels heavy.
She flipped to a random page, the 2017 entry about the scar that wasn't from a fall. Angela's neat cursive still held its steady mercy.
Angela didn't save me with a grand gesture. She saved me by staying.
The weight of that quiet loyalty felt more solid than any apology her mother would ever write.
I used to think scars were proof of weakness. Now I know they're just proof I survived.
She reached for her phone and typed a simple message to Angela. "Same time next week." The reply came almost instantly. "I've had you in the book for 12 years. I'll be there."
The book. She still calls it our book.
She set the phone down, and for the first time in months, the knot in her chest loosened. The following Wednesday, Kimberly pushed open the door of Angela's salon. The familiar scent of shampoo and coffee settled over her like a blanket.
The usual layers.
Yes, you know me.
Angela's hands moved with the same gentle precision that had once discovered bruises and scars. Now the scissors snipped in a rhythm that felt like the steady beat of a healed heart.
This chair once felt like the only place I could breathe.
In the mirror, Kimberly studied her reflection. A woman who had been shattered and rebuilt, but the pieces now fit without sharp edges, held together by threads of patience she had learned from the woman behind her. Angela caught her eyes in the glass and held them, a quiet understanding passing between them that required no explanation.
You look lighter today.
Because I am.
They didn't need more words. The quiet hum of the dryer filled the space where pain used to echo, and it sounded like peace. Angela unfastened the cape and gave Kimberly's shoulders a light dusting of powder, a ritual unchanged for years. Kimberly stood, smoothed her navy blazer, and turned from the mirror to face the woman who had saved her life, one quiet observation at a time.
You were the first person who ever made me feel like someone was paying attention.
Sometimes paying attention is the bravest thing we can do.
They shared a quick hug, no lingering goodbye, just the solid press of two people who had walked through fire and found each other on the other side.
Thank you doesn't cover 12 years, but she knows.
Kimberly turned toward the door, her hair catching the light, and pushed it open. The little bell above the door chimed its familiar note, a sound that had marked every visit for over a decade. Outside, she paused on the sidewalk, tilting her face up to the afternoon sun, as if letting it wash the last of the shadows away. Then she walked on, down the familiar street, no longer looking back. Angela never raised her voice. She never confronted a monster. She just wrote things down in a notebook that no one else ever saw, and by the time Kimberly was ready to tell her story, there were 73 reasons waiting to make sure someone believed her. Some heroes don't wear capes. They wear smocks and keep their eyes open. They notice the bruise at the hairline, the scar that doesn't match the story, and they write it down. They wait, not because they're passive, but because they understand that a person can only be saved when they're ready to reach for the hand. 12 years is a long time to keep a secret promise, but for the right kind of person, it's not a burden. It's a way of staying. Not everyone can confront a monster, but anyone can pay attention. Be somebody's record, if only for a moment. Not all scars are visible. Not all wounds leave marks. But what we witness can change everything, and sometimes the bravest thing we can do is keep a notebook and wait. If you are in a position to notice, pay attention. Write it down. Be patient. You might be somebody's only record. Somebody's Angela. The CHAIR program continues to train salon professionals across Ohio, turning ordinary chairs into safe havens. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear that silent witnesses are real. And if you are still listening, drop your city and the current time below. It reminds us why we tell these stories. Hit like if you believe someone's quiet record can change a life. Subscribe for more stories of everyday courage. Thank you for bearing witness. Until next time, this is your reminder that the smallest kindness can echo for years, and a simple notebook can become a shield. Be safe, be seen, be heard. See you in the next story. And so the notebook sat, small and worn, on Angela's salon station, holding 12 years of quiet courage. Its pages were filled with dates and observations, but between the lines was something more, proof that someone had been paying attention. This wasn't just a record of injuries, it was a monument to the power of steady, unnoticed witness. In a world that often moves too fast to see, Angela taught us that sometimes the bravest act is simply to look closely and to wait. Kimberly's life was changed not by a dramatic rescue, but by 73 quiet acts of seeing. If this story stays with you, let it remind you that everyday heroes are sitting in salon chairs, in coffee shops, in classrooms, just watching. You don't have to speak out loud. You just have to keep your eyes open and maybe write things down. Thank you for letting us share this story. Now go and be somebody's Angela.